you should never expect that it's going to be a one and done conversation when you're using AI. It's a put something out, get it back, tweak it, put something out, get it back, tweak it. And you have to do a few iterations with it. And that's no different than communicating with anybody else in life.
Buckle up for a new episode of the S.H.E podcast, the show where we have real and raw conversations to inspire and empower you to be seen and heard so you can create balance in everything you want in your life and business. I'm your host, S.H.E, and I'm excited to walk alongside of you on this journey of being seen, heard, and empowered. Hello and welcome to another episode of the S.H.E podcast, Be Seen, Be Heard, Be Empowered. And I have an amazing guest with me today that I'm really excited to talk about because this is one area of my business that always stresses me out. So to have her in the room with me and have this conversation, I am just like been over the moon about it because I want to pick her brain a little, if you will. And I know that this conversation is going to help you, especially in business when it comes to a four-letter word called tech. Yeah, I said it, tech. And it really does stress me out. And I have as part of my team helps me with that. And I know I get overwhelmed with it. And I know I'm not alone. So Elizabeth, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation with you.
Thank you, Heidi. It's so fun to be here.
Yeah, we're going to have a great time. Before we dive in, Elizabeth, I want to give everybody a little introduction to you so they can get to know you before we talk about it and hear all of your magnificence. Elizabeth Bieniek is the author of the Amazon best new release, Cake on Tuesday. Love that name. 25 Lessons to Unlock Corporate Innovation. As a founder and Fortune 100 innovation and engineering leadership veteran, her expertise lies in challenging assumptions, embracing diverse perspectives, and building empowered, resilient teams that last. Named among Topstol's 10 most influential female pioneers in technology, Elizabeth has spoken on bridging the gap between human connection and innovation at MTech, Next, Chatham House, the global AI community, and more. The results and approach of her unique leadership style have been featured in Forbes, Bloomberg Inc., International Business Times, Tech Times, and Women in Business. This lady knows her stuff. She currently speaks, writes, and consults from her home base in Austin, Texas. So again, welcome, Elizabeth, to the S.H.E podcast.
Great. I'm excited to dive in.
So my first question for you is, you're in tech and you help people navigate that and you bridge the gap between innovation or human connection and innovation, which I think for many of us is a challenge. So is this something that you navigated yourself and now help people through, or is this something that you did as far as you went to school for, learned, and now you help people through this process? Or
100% the former. I absolutely fell into this. I tripped, fell, failed my way up, all of the things. And it was a huge learning curve and journey for me. And for many years, I wouldn't even admit I was on this journey. I'm like, oh no, I'm not in tech. I'm not in innovate. I don't do this. And finally, I had to stop saying that and realize that okay, my journey will probably help a lot of other people trying to make this journey who maybe are a little overwhelmed at the start too.
when you filled out the speaker form and shared your information, that you fell into this. You said you didn't go to school for this. So you actually studied something completely different. So can you tell us a little
Completely.
bit about that journey?
My undergrad is in English. I actually thought I was going to pursue my master's in fine arts and creative writing. I was on that track, even took the GMAT and everything. I was moving forward in that space, or GRE rather. And I made a hard pivot into business school somewhat at the last minute. Ended up going for my MBA and landing a job more in the finance space. And it was a very different direction than I ever set out to go after. But
Uh-huh.
the thing I found that's really, really useful, it's very incredibly useful to have an English degree in technology. Because when you come down to it and realize everything about any corporate environment, anytime you're working with other people, a partnership, it's all about people and the relationships. And the ability to communicate effectively is useful in any industry, and maybe even more so in industries that don't have it as a top priority.
I have a question for you regarding your business because now you support people. Like I know that you had shared with me behind the scenes that you were in the corporate industry before. What
Mhm.
made you pivot from working in corporate to launching your own business?
I think the biggest thing is I had hit a huge end point. I was finishing a multi-year project that was big and crazy and fun and scary and all of the things. And in the process of doing the wrap up of that and thinking, what did I learn through this? How do I want to use that to shape my next step? I really had the opportunity to think, do I want to do a similar project again inside of this same company, similar project inside of another company, start my own company, or help other people do this? I ended up on those last two of I want to start my own company, helping other people do this. And so that's really what launched me into the current phase of my career that I'm in now, which is around consulting and speaking and helping other people trying to innovate either entrepreneurially inside of a big company or entrepreneurially on their own.
I know that our audience is female entrepreneurs. So can you share with
Mhm.
us what was your biggest challenge when you made this pivot and decided to go into business for yourself?
It's both exhilarating and terrifying when you are the one that's making all the decisions, calling all the shots. I spent a lot of my corporate career finding the best way to put into place and execute on someone else's vision. Some opportunities I would be able to take my own vision and execute on it, but then I would have to execute within the parameters that someone else was setting. And when you're going out on your own, you're both setting your vision and setting all of the parameters for how you execute to meet that vision. And as everyone in this audience knows, that never stops. It never sleeps. It never ends. And so it's fantastic in one way because you literally have no limit. You can do anything. Potential is amazing. And you can pivot regularly and you don't have to get approval to pivot, which is also amazing. But the flip side of that is you have to be diligent and you have to put the work in, you have to motivate yourself, be your own cheerleader. There's a lot that goes with that. So I love both sides of it. I love it and hate it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all on us, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
There's nobody else to
Um,
blame.
exactly. The buck stops here. Responsibility.
Hmm.
When I was introducing you, we talked about that you help build resilient teams that last, and you just talked about your vision. So I want to talk into how you support the companies that you work with build teams, because I know some people listening may not have a team yet, or they're looking to maybe scale it, or they've been trying to build teams and it doesn't seem to be
Hmm.
working out as well as they had hoped. It's not as easy as we think it is when we're an entrepreneur. Because when we start out, we're juggling a lot of hats, and then we kind of want to release some of that off of our plate. What would
Yeah.
be some suggestions that you can share with someone that's like, okay, how do I even begin this journey to make sure that I'm choosing the right person? And the reason I ask this is because you brought up vision, and it's really important. And I always share this with clients is that not only like it's really important you understand your brand, you are clear with your vision, your why, your mission.
Hmm.
Because when you're bringing in people, you want to make sure that they're connected and they understand it as well. What tips could you share with us to make sure that we're doing this the right way?
I like the fact that you have empowerment as part of your title for your podcast because that's such a big piece of it. I have a chapter in Cake on Tuesday that's called Empowered Teams Power Through. And it's really focused on how do you set your team up for success. When you're trying to move beyond yourself as a single person to how do I then move a group of multiple people forward towards that same vision, there's a lot of really complicated parts of that that you have to put together all in synergy to make that be effective. And communication is a huge part of it. That's going back to the earlier point. I think the ability to say things clearly in a way that your audience receives, not in the way that's clear to you, that's clear to them, and learning all the nuances as to trade in the currencies that your audience trades in, and how do you get them passionate about what you're passionate about. That is a huge part. I have another chapter in the book called Nobody Cares Until You Make Them. And it's really focused on the audience that you are facing. Each time, a lot of times people will say, yeah, communication is important, or I have this great PowerPoint deck, or I have this talk track, or whatever the case is. And I've really fine tuned it and it's awesome and it's perfect. That's wonderful, but that will never work repeatedly. Your every audience you encounter is going to be different. Their motivation is going to be different. Their fear is going to be different. Their emotional attachment to what you're doing is going to be different. So you constantly have to adjust your approach to the person that you're interacting with or persons that you're interacting with. And I love thinking about this as you are in this art of persuasion. You're trying to persuade someone to come along on your thought process. And I always heard this great definition of persuasion, that persuasion is the art of navigating someone around their own internal mental roadblocks. And I thought that was a really cool way to describe it because you're thinking about not just how does this make sense to me and how do I just explain this to the masses, but this person that is across from me right now, what else is going on in their life? How do I look at them holistically as a whole human? And they have career objectives they're trying to do. They have maybe milestones that are not being met. They have a personal life. They have long-term goals and dreams. What are all those things that are going on? And this is jumble of humanity across from me. And how do I take my path and my journey and my vision and explain it to them in a way that not only can they see that vision with me, but they can get excited about it with me too. And that is hugely important. It does require a lot of EQ. I think a lot of times women naturally have higher EQ, and we can use that to our advantage because you can read that audience and see their reaction and understand the broader picture of how do I tailor this message for who I'm talking to. But I think that's a huge part of it.
Mm. So you brought up your book, so I want to dive into that. First of all, how did you come up with the name of it? Because I love the name.
Uh,
Take on Tuesday.
everything about my career path, the project that the book is about, and my steps since then have been very non-traditional. I've never really fit the mold or the picture of what I'm supposed to be doing at that time. So I didn't want my business book title to just sound like another business book title. So Cake on Tuesday is a good reflection of everything about my non-traditional journey. And it's specifically from a chapter in the book that's called Have Cake on Tuesday, and it's talking about the project that the book is based on. There was a particular stretch in the project where we'd gotten past all that exciting beginning. We'd already hit our first major milestones. We were working on something that was very cutting edge technologically, and we didn't know when we started if it was even technologically feasible. We didn't, it'd never been done before. We didn't know if it could be possible. So that was super exciting, hitting those first milestones. Yes, this can be possible, and wow, we can do this, and what next? But then you get to a point where, like, okay, now we need to just make improvements on this. We need a better experience. We need to update these little things here and there. And it's not as exciting. It's marginal improvement. It's necessary, but it's a little bit more behind the scenes. And we didn't have a big flashy milestone to rally the team around. And I was having a conversation with my ops manager at the time, who's amazing. And we were talking about how do we inject excitement into this phase of the project when there's just not an exciting milestone to rally around. And she had this idea of creating a Wheel of Fortune style. We called it the Wheel of Winning. And she just put everybody's name on it that was on the team. At the end of our staff meeting, she would spin it. And if it landed on your name, it'd be like, Heidi, you get a cake this week. We just send you a cake in the mail. We had a
Wow.
global team that was all over the world. So it was a way to kind of just do something fun. And our staff meetings were on Tuesdays. And that's where Cake on Tuesday came from.
I love that. And I love the story because I'm always saying, make your business, have fun. At the end of the day,
Yes.
there's so much we're always moving through fear. Whenever we're up leveling into the next level of our business, we're stepping into a version of ourselves that we haven't stepped into yet. So there's fear, there's imposter syndrome, there's paralyzed things that can paralyze us and stop us. But when we're taking action, action brings clarity, and make it fun. Find a way to insert some fun into your business, especially in entrepreneurship. Like could be a lonely, can be a lonely journey. I think we're starting to see more like the internet, the virtual space can now be a place where we can create a lot of amazing connections and collaborations. But at the end of the day, you're still like, I'm home right now by myself, you're in your office. So it can be a solo ride sometimes. So the more fun we can make it, the easier it's going to be. And also the more people you're going to attract to that type of energy. So I love that you guys did. And it's inspiring and motivating for your team too, right? It keeps them
Yeah, it was just
engaged and
something to look forward to. I mean,
yeah.
it's a way to look forward to a staff meeting. And staff
Yeah.
meetings aren't always the most exciting thing, but it was a way to look forward. I might win something this week. But if you
Yeah,
think
and you
about
end on a win, right? You're ending
yeah,
on,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. Entrepreneurial adventures can be so hard and challenging, like you're saying. But if you think about, I always like to think about people that are doing really hard things, really stressful things. Think about people who are firefighters or police or military. A lot of times these people or doctors can have a fantastic sense of humor
Mhm.
because you almost have to balance. If my stress is really high, my humor has to be really high. And you have to balance those. And I think when you're doing something hard, which anything entrepreneurial is, you have to really level up the levity and the fun in there to balance it out. Otherwise, It's not a good combination.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when you're saying that and this new generation, I don't what they call Gen X. I don't know the generation names, but I'm big
Or
about this. They're
Z
like,
now,
it's
or
not,
it's the one below
yes,
Z.
not necessarily. Yeah, I don't know that I could probably completely be, I could have totally messed that up. And if I did, I apologize to anybody if I offended you. I do not know. I always have to ask my daughter who's 15, what generation is what and what am I? And they're like, Mom, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know. There's a different culture now in the workspace. It's not only about making money. They also want to feel like they're making an impact and they're
Right.
enjoying their work. It's not like it used to be where you just go to work for 30 years, whether you hate it or not, you do your time, right? It's totally different. So bringing fun into your business is part of, well, one, it's part of your brand. I know for me, that's part of my brand is fun. Because in vacation, I love that stuff. So incorporate that into your world and you're going to keep your team longer, right? Elizabeth?
Yes.
Yeah,
The sticking
your team
power is
want to work for
huge, the
you.
motivation. When people feel personally motivated to move forward the mission of your organization, it's a win-win on both sides because not only will they give so much more of themselves, really think like, what else can I bring to the table? Ooh, what if we could do this? It might be outside of their job description or wheelhouse, but they start looking at it holistically. So it's amazing for the organization, but it's also amazing for the individual because it's not just going to a job like, okay, somebody needs me to plug these numbers in a spreadsheet and I'm done and I'm out. It's more thinking like, why am I plugging these numbers in a spreadsheet? What are we trying to do? And like, yes, they need this piece from me, so then we can do this part. And you feel connected and you feel like you're part of something big, which you are. So it's such a win-win on both sides when you can really tap into that mission and have an aligned mission.
Yeah, and they feel appreciated and they
Yeah.
feel seen and heard. Oh, love
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Oh, I heard
absolutely.
something about that recently.
I don't know where. So my next question I shared with you both behind the scenes and when we started this episode, tech really makes me nervous. Like my brain is just not wired that way. I'm more of the creative, and then I want to pass it on. Figure it out. Like I've got the idea, figure it out. But there's times I've had to deal with the tech, and my brain seems like as soon as I even hear the word or look at anything that overly looks techy and complicated, my brain shuts down. And now there's the new AI that is out. I don't know how new it is really, but we've been hearing about it. And I've really pushed that off for as long as I could. I'm now diving into it because at the end of the day, it's not going away. So if we don't
Mhm.
embrace it, then we're going to be left behind. So we might as well get on the bandwagon and learn it now before it keeps evolving and expanding. So can you share with us we should be incorporating AI or how to make it simpler for us, especially for somebody that might be a solopreneur and they're kind of juggling all the hats?
Yeah, AI can be really scary, I know. And I think right now in the hype cycle, it's so high. You hear about it everywhere. If the field that you're in is technology related or technology adjacent, AI is everywhere. And everybody's screaming and clamoring, you need to be doing this, you need generative AI, you need that as part of your vision, you need to be moving forward. And part of it, I would just say, calm down, everybody. This is a hype cycle. I think if you look back, being in the technology space, there's always been something, some terminology, some type of technology that everybody gets really excited about for some period of time. There was always 5G or big data or virtual reality, or there's always something. And not to say it's not important. AI is a little bit unique in that. So I do understand why it's maybe a slightly bigger hype cycle. But it is a hype cycle. So I think part of it is we can all calm down a little bit. I think right now everyone is looking at it as the Wild West and how do I make money? So you're seeing all the technology companies do that and want to be first. And you see that anytime we have innovation, it's great. There is a gold rush. That's how we get to innovation. But I think when we're looking at it is how can this help me? First of all, just pausing and thinking, maybe it can't right now. So it's okay. If your business is going great and things are really working and you've got a system and everything is a good process and it's dialed, you don't have to inject AI into your system. So I think that's one thing. It is not a one size fits all, and you need to apply this in every area. The other piece is I like to think of AI in its most simplest form as a helper. If
Mm,
you're looking at your business right now, like, I need help. Okay. Where do you need help? And is it, I need help in writing my marketing collateral? I need help in doing research. I need help in organizing my calendar. I need whatever that area is. And then thinking about it from business first, my needs first, then look at AI. Is this something AI can help with? I know a lot of people that are using AI right now for entrepreneurs, that small business entrepreneurs specifically, who are using AI to help with things like marketing collateral of I need to be writing content and getting it out there and I just that's not my forte. I don't know how to make a nice hook. I don't know how to do that. And so they're going to AI for that. And AI can be fantastic with that because you can put in a, hey, I need a jazzy sounding, hook for this product that I'm trying to put out there. Here's the spec sheet. What can you give me? And you can get a lot of really good ideas from it. But like anything else, AI is very much garbage in, garbage out. So you have to be mindful of what you're putting in there. What are you asking for? I mean, if you say, hey, write me a really exciting marketing proposal about my new product, it's a purple post-it, and that's all you give it, your marketing collateral is not going to be that great because your
Right.
AI is going to be trying to make up stuff or when it's not going to be true, or it's going to be just a lot of different ways to say purple because there's no other information that you've given it. So you do have to think about what you put in is what you get out. That if you have specific questions, we can go deeper into any one area, but that's where I would start.
Yeah, that's a good point because I've learned playing with AI and I had some fun with it. I've like played with like do a I use all these different adjectives like engaging, but engaging, I feel like you said, depending on what you're asking it, it's only going to give you back the as much as you're offering, right? You're sharing.
Mhm.
But I've sent like a funny email or something, and it wrote all about mermaids. And it made it all about the ocean and mermaids, and I laughed my butt off. I'm like, I can't put this out there. They're gonna know it's not my voice, right? So that's the question I have for you. For like you said, really give it details of what you're looking for. Just don't do a one liner and just give it a basic thing because, and also AI is learning. It's learning from other
Mhm.
who are using AI. So what it gives you may not be related to specifically your voice and how you would share it because it's learning from other people engaging with it as well. So it's
Right.
and I learned that. But how do we make it? Because when I read your bio earlier about humanizing, like creating that human connection with innovation. So how can somebody who's just starting AI help it to learn its voice, it learn its brand voice, and also its
I
product
think
and services?
exactly like you're just saying, it is iterative. So think about it. Think about it like having conversation with your neighborhood 12-year-old who knows nothing about your business. And you're just having a chat with them to say, hey, I tried to do this. Would you explain it in terms that that kid could understand?
Mhm.
How would you then make an ask to them? And then they might come back with a, oh, does like this? And you're like, oh, no, not quite like that. It's actually more like this. And you give another example. Everything, when you're talking to AI, think of it like talking to a person. You are having this back and forth dialogue of you're trying to explain something that they've never seen. They've never seen your business. They've never heard about it. They've never, not even familiar with the industry, perhaps. And you're telling them a little bit about this is what I do. Okay, great. They're not going to have a full sense of that because you sent two lines over.
Yeah.
There's going to be questions. There's going to be back and forth. But think about when you're meeting a new person and you're trying to get them to understand something, you're going to say something, they're going to ask a question or say, oh, is it this? And describe it in a way. And that gives you more information. Say, oh, you're kind of there, but not quite. Here's another piece of information you should know. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then this. I'll give you a perfect example. I used AI yesterday. I like AI for image generation. I think it's great for it because I'm not an artist. So it's really useful for that kind of thing. I did a LinkedIn post yesterday referencing something my 5-year-old daughter said to me. We were driving home from the supermarket the other day and she asked me, she's like, do ants like to be washed? And very serious about this. And she's like, with bubbles and stuff. And I love kids' questions. And I wrote a post just about how this is so great for innovation. There's so many times that innovation requires asking those outlandish questions without fear, without just honest, genuine curiosity. So I wrote a post about that in LinkedIn, but I want to put an image with it. So I used Grok and I just put in, can you make an image of an ant in a bathtub? Or an ant being washed and I had to go back and forth. And the one that came back the first image that came back was terrifying. It was like this super large, super realistic, ominous looking creature in a tub. And I'm like, oh my God, not that. But that was the it's totally believable that that's the response I got based on the inquiry made. So I said, can you make it more kid friendly, but not cartoonish? Oh, I think I said more kid friendly, and it came back with a very cartoony one with like giant eyes, and I was like, okay, yes, more kid friendly like that, but not a cartoon. And then what I came back with, the image I actually posted, I love it. And then somebody commented on this is a cute image. I'm like, this would make a great character in a kids book series or something. It was really cute what it came up with, and it was unique and it was fantastic. But I had to go back and forth with that, and that's you should never expect that it's going to be a one and done conversation when you're using AI. It's a put something out, get it back, tweak it, put something out, get it back, tweak it. And you have to do a few iterations with it. And that's no different than communicating with anybody else in life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've always had to do reiterations of it, and I'm like, oh, no, no, okay, and it's fun to do that. But it gets so when you if you're new to AI, maybe introduce yourself just like you would a person. Like you're meeting someone who doesn't know you, introduce yourself. I coach entrepreneurs. We always say, "What's your intro statement?" Like maybe you get to lead
Yeah,
at your intro statement, and other people are do like you had mentioned. Other people do what you do. How do you fill the gap? Like make sure the AI knows what makes you different from other
yeah.
people in your space so they can incorporate that too. But again, it's going to come with practice and with playing around and having fun in the process of it. Laugh a little, let it have some fun, joke around with it. It can be fun.
Now I have a lot of pictures of ants in bathtubs. Who knows when I might need to
Can't
use
wait to
those.
check out your LinkedIn post. I'm going to go check it out. I like love it and comment on it. Too cute. I'm excited. So what I haven't used it to generate images yet. Is there a certain site you go to do that? Because I know there's different
I
sites.
currently use Grok inside of X, just because I like the what I get out of it. I think it's really
Yeah.
creative. But there's a lot of people use ChatGPT. You can use a lot of different sources.
Okay.
It's kind of your personal preference or flavor.
Yeah, that's how non-techie I am. I didn't even know ChatGPT did images. I thought it just did cop like written. So look at that. I learned something new today. This has been so wonderful, and I have so many more questions, but I want to be respectful of your time. So, how can people find you, Elizabeth? If they want to reach out and connect with you, work with you, whatever that looks like for them. How can we
Mhm.
reach you?
You can find me on my website, elizabethbieniek.com. I have some resources on there for consulting, speaking, writing, and so that you can reach out through that. You can find me on LinkedIn, where I do the majority of my posting. There's not a lot of Elizabeth Bieniek, so I'm fairly easy to find on there as well. Or I more recently started an Instagram and an X account, both of them at Cake on Tuesday.
Awesome. Can't wait. Well, and go get the book. Go grab the book. They can
Yes,
find it on
please.
Amazon, right? Yeah, let's go grab that book. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today with me. I want to ask you one final question, real
Of
quick.
course.
Or I like to get a little behind the scenes with my guests, something that we wouldn't know about you from hearing like your professional expertise or finding you on social media is a fun fact that we wouldn't know if we just found you on Instagram or LinkedIn.
You would probably never guess by my career path that at one point in my childhood life, I thought for sure I was going to be a volcano expert, a geologist that focused on volcanoes. That was my passion as a kid.
That is
And I
so
studied
awesome.
all of the things, and I obviously did not pursue that.
Yeah, then you went into English.
Then I went into English, and then I went into technology. So figure that one out. Yeah,
That is
not a
so
logical path.
You have a lot of interest. See, and that's a great, we didn't even get into this topic because we ran out of time. Maybe we'll bring you back for this. All about pivoting. You never know when
Yes.
to pivot. And, we're moving into a new year. So if we're not going to dive into this right now, because I know that'll be a long conversation because I love the topic of pivoting. If that's on your heart and you're listening to it, don't be afraid of it. Elizabeth's perfect example. I've pivoted many times and I know it can be scary sometimes, but if there's something calling on your heart, take the leap. This is the time to do it. It's a new year, new you. Maybe it's a new pivot, right? So check out Elizabeth. Go find her on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Go find that ant in a bathtub post. Comment on it, love it, and comment on it. And also go to her website and grab her freebies that she has and connect with her. She's amazing. She's fun, and she can definitely help you out in her areas of expertise, especially when it comes to tech. So go connect with her. Elizabeth, is there anything last that you'd like to share that I may not have touched on?
I just love your idea of pivoting. I think that's a great thing to end on, and just remembering that if you don't love where you are right now, that's okay. You're not staying there for forever. You can pivot at any time, and that's the beauty of the journey. Just enjoy the journey.
maybe you've been inspired by this talk and you're about to write, go write a children's book on ants and bathtubs. Who
That's
knows?
quite possible. It's quite
Yes.
possible.
Give Elizabeth credit if you do in the book. Give her the shout out. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with me today. I've had so much fun with you. It's been a great conversation, and have an amazing rest of your day. I'm so grateful and appreciative. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the S.H.E podcast. Go be empowered to be seen and heard, and we'll see you on the next episode.